Go.
Okay, tonight's speech is about knots. Not all about knots, because there are too many knots to fit into one speech. The best book of knots is this book called Ashley's Book of Knots, written by this guy who's like really old now. And as best as I understand, it has thousands of knots in it. It's sort of considered the knot Bible. But we're not going to go quite that far. I'm just going to talk about a few knots. I'm going to talk about knots that are related to climbing and search and rescue, because these are knots that could actually like save your life or something someday if you know how to tie them. So if I only do a few knots, these are the knots that I would want to know. And I'm going to start with one that's called an alpine butterfly. And the purpose of this knot is, let's say you've got a long rope that you need to use for something, and you manage to nick it, and it has a spot in the middle that's torn up, and you don't think that will hold load, so you want to like take that piece out of the rope, but you need to use the rest of the rope, and this problem is in the middle. So the alpine butterfly works like this. You take the rope and you sort of lay it in the palm of your hand and you curl it over once, and then you curl over kind of again to the middle, and then you take this piece and bring it over and pull it through. And the result, once you get done doing what's called dressing it, which is sort of pulling it tight, is a knot that works like this, and it will actually bear load on both of these parts and on this part. And so if you had, if this was where the cut in the rope was, or the frayed part, you've actually isolated it from the load. And I also like this knot because when you're done with it, you need to take it out. You can sort of fold it back, and it comes apart without too much trouble. So, because a lot of knots, you put them in a rope, and they're not coming back out. At least not without a lot of trouble. And I like knots that are easy to tie and also easy to untie. So the next knot we're going to talk about is one that can be used for joining two ropes, and it's called a figure 8 bend. And because I'm joining two ropes, I'm going to use these smaller ropes so that you can see a little more of what I'm doing. And the way you do a figure 8 bend is that you make a figure 8 in the first rope. And a figure 8, you lay the rope over itself, come back under, and down through. And so that makes a figure 8 in the rope. And to use this to join two ropes, you take your other rope, and it just sort of chases the first one back through all of its figures. And one thing that's good about this knot also is that after you've done two ropes together this way and put them under tension, you can still take this knot apart afterwards. This knot, however, is not really great when your ropes are of different diameters, or significantly different diameters. So if you have a really fat rope and a really skinny rope and you want to join them. And if you were using this in climbing, you would also want to tie a stopper knot with these loose ends to help make sure that they didn't slide back through under. It won't so much happen under tension as if you have tension and then slack and tension and slack, the knot can work undone. Now, if you're going to be joining ropes with different diameters, then there is an improvement on this, which people decided to call the figure 9 bend. It does not resemble a 9, but it's sort of like one more turn than a figure 8. So for that one, you start like a figure 8, take the rope here, and normally, actually just come back over. Normally you would be coming back down through here, but you come back over the top and then under here. So this is the figure 9, which is just a little more complicated than a figure 8. And you can do the same trick with a figure 9 for joining two ropes, where you just follow the original rope back through all of its twists and turns. And pardon me for looking away from the audience, but if I don't look at the rope, this isn't going to work out. Oops. Right around there. Following in. Oh, there we go. It's got to go that way. And back around and through there. And these knots actually, when you pull them tight, they make a nice little compact thing. Some of these are used in climbing when you want to rappel, because say you have a couple of 200-foot ropes that you're climbing with, and you want to rappel, but you'd like to get your ropes back, and you need to go down, say, 180 feet. So you can tie your ropes together with a knot like this, put them through or around a tree or a carabiner or something, and put them so the knot's just to one side. And remember that, the knot's in the green rope end. And then you can rappel down using the doubled rope, and then when you're done, you can pull on this rope, and bring the other one on down. And all you've left behind is maybe one carabiner, or perhaps it was even just wrapped around a tree and you haven't really left anything behind. The next knot that I want to talk about is my personal favorite knot. And this one I learned a long time ago when I went to summer camp as a relatively young child. And this is the first knot that you learn for climbing. It's the knot that you use to tie yourself to the end of the rope so that if you fall, somebody can save you. And so they want you to really be able to tie it no matter what. And this is called a bowline. So with the bowline, you put the rope around yourself like this, and the classic explanation is there's a bunny hole in a tree. Imagine the rope going up like the tree. And the bunny comes out of the hole, runs around the tree, runs back in the hole. And that makes a bowline. And the nice thing about a bowline is that you can fall and pull on it, and you can still undo it or adjust it relatively easily. And if you're actually using one for climbing, you would pull it tight like this, and then you would tie like a square stopper knot around this end to keep the loose end from flapping back through. So that's a bowline. Now I'm going to call for a little bit of audience participation here. Let's imagine that you're out hiking with a friend, and fortuitously you have some rope along, and you're hiking someplace where you have, say, some drop-offs, and you manage to do something stupid and trip, and you fall 30 or 40 feet down to a ledge, and you break one of your arms. So now you're laying down here on this ledge with one broken arm. Your friend's up top, and he's got a rope, but he hasn't got anybody to help him get down to help you, so he can throw the end of the rope down to you, but you're going to have to tie it onto yourself. So Harry here is going to throw me this end of the rope, preferably the end without the end. I'm just going to, I'm just laying down here on the ledge, and this arm is not helping. So he throws me a rope, and I'm going to grab this and pull it around myself, and then I'm going to roll up a little bit of this rope in the end here, and I grab the rope here, and I can put my thumb, can't use that, and use it to fold this rope. I grab that rope and I fold this over, and then I can actually pull this through and around and back through. And then, pull on the rope just a little bit, give it some tension, and then not hard, and then he can adjust that, and I can manage to tighten this up, and you can actually tie a bowline around yourself one-handed. And I'm running low on time here, so I won't actually try and tighten this up all the way. And then once you've got it tied up, he can help drag you up to safety. And you can do that with one hand. So, I'm going to talk about one more knot at the end here, and this is called a tensionless hitch. And this is, let's say that you're at the other end of that rope, and you're hauling your buddy up, and he falls. And so now, you're sitting here holding onto the rope. You know, you've probably seen that in the movies, and there's the guy, and he's going to fall down the cliff if you let go of the rope. And you're getting tired, and you've got to tie it off to something, but you can't let go of it to tie it off to something. So there's a tree over here. So the way this works is that, Eric, come over here for a second. So, this rope, let's imagine here is the tree. And this rope is going to the person who, you've got tension on this. So the way a tensionless hitch works is that you take that rope and you wrap it as many times as you can around whatever thing it is, post, tree, whatever you're going to tie it off to. And then in the end, you make a figure-8 hitch, and you'll take something like a carabiner and clip that onto it, and then you clip it back to this line. Because by the time you wrap this 2 or 3 or 4 times around, there really isn't any more tension on this end. So you can tie a figure-8 loop in it, put a clip on it, and clip it back to that line. And now you managed to now you can go do something, help your friend, whatever. You've got this rope under control. And that's my last knot. And, these are not really all that complicated, but, sometimes if you get in a sticky situation, they might really help you out. That's my thought.